Welcome to the only show recorded in the video store of the mind that is a spooky cake with nostalgia icing. This is Night Shift Video. I am a horrible host. My name is James, and tonight I am joined by my co-host.
I'm Cody.
Each week we review a scary movie. I kind of changed my script. Each week we review is pretty tough to say if you really think about it.
Tongue twister.
Each week we review a scary movie and we share the real spooky stories and paranormal mysteries that relate to the films. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe, like, do all the internet things. You can leave us a review. Any review that you leave us on like any of your podcaster, whatever apps. If you leave us a review, we're gonna read it on the air. No matter what you say. Good things, bad things, questions, I don't care. We'll read it.
Yep.
So we're doing summer camps. Summer camp movies, summer camp stories.
I'm in.
And I'm just so amped for summer.
Oh yeah.
And all of the summer camp stories are like really getting me right now.
Oh, okay. So let me give you another one. It was spooky. The other night, me and my wife and my 18-month-old son.
Oh, that's right.
We camped out in our backyard.
That's right.
It was spooky. It was so I love camping. I love being outdoors. I also kind of know my limits. 18-month-old, like it's like I would set up the tent for him to play in it and not try the camping part.
Right.
My wife, on the other hand, is far more ambitious. She has taken him to a beach and like put him in like this weird little tent.
Yeah.
That we got on Amazon.
That's right.
And he took a nap for like an hour and a half on the beach in the middle of the day. Like, go you. I wouldn't try that. And so we camped out and my experience was great. I fell asleep at like midnight. At one point, he needed his pacifier, so I gave it to him. Woke up at like 7:30. We had the coffee in the house because why not?
Right.
And then I cooked breakfast over the fire. Come to find out, he was up from like 1 to 3. And so was my wife. And they both took like 5-hour naps the next day. Let that sink in. Don't do it.
Summer camp.
Summer camp.
So I got a summer camp story for us. In 1692, this is an old one.
Whoa.
1692, 13-year-old girl was abandoned in the woods just outside of Salem, Massachusetts. She was abandoned by her father, who suspected her of being a witch.
Oh,
after hearing rumors that, we're getting straight up into like the witch territory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After hearing rumors that his daughter had been terrorizing the townspeople, the girl's father led a mob into the woods to find her and burn her. The girl escaped the fire, but she was met with a group of angry men who began chasing her deeper into the woods. When the girl fell into a deep ditch, she called to her father for help. As she reached up to her father, he started to shovel dirt over her. Now, people who visit the camp in those woods think that they can hear the muffled, agonizing screams of the girl who was buried alive.
That's good, man. That's good. That's a good story. I don't think people paid attention in history class when you went over like the Puritans and stuff. Dude, they're crazy. And like I don't know about this guy. I don't know what his story is, but like go watch The Witch.
Right.
Like that's a large majority of them.
Yep. Or watch it, listen to our review of it. That's way back in our very first season. The show had a different name and everything, but it's still in the feed. You can find it down there. We do enjoy the movie. It's difficult to watch, but it's
Yeah. There's a reason why like Stephen King still chooses those settings as like a lot of his stories because a lot of them have this complex haunted ground to them. And like maybe his settings don't have that. Some of them obviously do, but like it's because dude that area is rich of just like there's a lot. I mean, Indian bear, like entire villages of Native Americans being wiped out,
right.
You know, because of disease and stuff. And like, oh man, like, there's a lot to take in there. And then on top of it, like if you are a parent yourself, like you got to put yourself there, right? We're like, and like for me, it's complete. Obviously, like we don't know what this guy's going through, but also if you've ever seen the movie Case 39, I'm not saying it's the best horror movie.
You like that one,
but it's good.
You bring
man.
it up a lot.
I would say it's Renee Zellweger's best movie she's ever done because otherwise I think she's not that great. No offense to any Renee Zellweger fans.
No, Renee Zellweger herself is gonna hear this, and she's coming after.
Oh
you.
yeah. Well, that might.
I totally had her lined up to be a guest on the show next week, and you fucked me over.
That might be my 10 minutes of fame. Like, man gets destroyed on social media by Renee Zellweger. Maybe, I don't know. But
you wouldn't know. You're a Mennonite and don't have social media.
Yeah, well, also I'm gonna have 15 kids, so there it is. But yeah, I mean, it's you also when I think about that, one of the first scenes. It's not a spoiler because it's one of the first scenes in the movie is like them putting the girl in the oven. Like, what are you doing? And then the movie obviously transpires. Like, I don't know. Anyway, it's a good story.
Yeah.
All right, I got one.
Hit me.
I got one. Okay. At Springs Peak Camp near Lake Michigan in 1982, so this is relatively recent, a group of boys decided to raid the cabins of the girls who were staying at the camp. Classic scenario.
Classic.
One night, when the coast was clear, the boys snuck out of their own cabin and creeped into the girls' cabin. It was so dark the boys couldn't see anything, and they were feeling around the room. Ooh. As they tried to find candy and snacks to steal, the cabin light turned on, and the boys figured they were busted. But in the door was a masked figure holding a blood-drenched knife. The boys screamed and started shaking the girls' beds to wake and warn them. That's when they realized that they and everything else in the cabin was covered in blood of their fellow campers. By the end of the night, every single camper and counselor had been murdered by the masked figure.
Yikes.
Oh, it's good. It's classic. That's
a movie.
That's a movie. And again, a lot of times we talk about these movies like, oh, that would never happen. It's like, and I'm not vouching for the validity of all these stories, but
right.
Stereotypes are for a reason, tropes are for a reason. Like, they hold some truths, right?
Yeah, and to that note, I will say my original plan going into the summer camp series was to get actual true crime horror stories of things that have happened at summer camps. I'm gonna be honest, it got just a little too dark for us to do that for 4 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Because there have been murders or suicides of young campers and shit like that. And it's real fucked up.
Yep.
And not that those people's stories don't need to be told, because obviously they do, but it was one of those things where I was like, you know what? Let's not go that dark. So all of these are stories that claim to be true, but they're very much urban legend, urban myth type stories.
And that's kind of the point, right? Like, these are what you're going to tell around the fire.
Yes.
While camping. And also, that's kind of the mood and vibe of summer camp that we're trying to set. Actually, the camp that I worked at had a couple of those legends. And some of the older campers would eventually hear through the grapevine. And of course, it's like a game of telephone where those stories adapt and change. And then it becomes its own lore. But it's working there, your first 2 weeks of staff training, they're like, oh yeah, this happened, and this happened. Before it was the camp that we worked at. It was a Boy Scout camp.
Right.
And then it was a getaway for
There's always the history.
Yeah. There was it was some kind of I don't know, bougie day camp for rich people in the 20s and
interesting.
And so there was just all these legends and lore, and it wasn't always necessarily the camp that we worked at, but it was the same grounds. And I don't it's still pretty dark. Some of the stuff that I'm hearing is still pretty rough.
And I don't know, it's one of those things that whenever humans have claimed, and maybe it's not even just humans, maybe this is mostly an American thing, because obviously we really like camping. I don't know if camping is even as much of a thing in a lot of other cultures as it is here.
Yeah.
But once humans have selected a ground as oh, this is a good place to camp and actually make it a campsite, it will be a campsite for a very long time.
Yep.
Very long time.
Yep.
For very many different kinds of people. It changes hands. Different people own it, whatever.
Yep.
Anybody could own it and be doing anything on it at any time.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, even just the one. So I grew up going to a couple different campgrounds. My family was a camping family. I feel in the Midwest, it's kind of like that, maybe anywhere between lower middle and middle class thing to do, right? Like it's a little bit more accessible than like the annual trip to Disney World,
right?
Where you can maybe do it a couple times a summer. Maybe you have a pop up or maybe a nice tent, a couple nice tents.
Sure.
But it's a little bit more accessible. You go to this maybe religious campsite, this campsite, but like then you find out like, oh, it's only been a religious campsite for like 20 years.
Right.
And before that, it was like this special, like the Freemasons campsite. And it's like, what did the Freemasons do? Why were they camping? Like, what? I don't know. It's weird, man.
Who knows?
And like you hear these things and these, again, it's a trope of like, well, we're this camp now, but before us was this. Yeah, that's absolutely 100% true. Like,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So a couple other summer camp movies for you guys. There is Spirit Camp from the 80s. There is the 70s The Burning. And then tonight's feature presentation, Sleepaway Camp 2.
Number two. So we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back to you with our feature presentation.
Now available on home video. And now our feature presentation.
All right, before we get into our movie, if anyone out there wants to help out the show, please tell a friend. That is the best way that we have seen growth. And when more people are tuning in, we're just able to do more things. You can also join us on Patreon at Night Shift. Oh, that's not how it goes. You can also join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Night Shift Video. That's NITESHIFT VIDEO, where your monthly donations will give you access to our private Discord channel. Let's watch audio tracks, audio commentary for movies, all kinds of other goodies and shit. All right. This week, continuing our stroll down Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, I like that.
Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers.
Oh, what a ridiculous title. I love it.
Oh, it's so great. Let's talk about the cover of the film. I have it right here. So this is sort of the main cover. This right here. Now, what I love about the cover, this is my favorite Sleepaway Camp cover.
Okay.
It does this stupid thing where it's making fun of all the great slashers.
Yep.
You got your Freddy mask, or you got your Jason mask. You got your Freddy glove. You got your Leatherface chainsaw sticking out the back. But if you notice as you're looking at this cover, this is not the actress who is in the movie.
Nope. Not even close.
So Pamela Springsteen, who plays Angela in the film, was not available to come back out to do the photo shoots. So they just found another model.
What could she be doing?
And went with that.
Stop it.
And I freaking love it. It also says, when you go camping, just take the essentials. And that's where we see all the murder weapons and the slasher villain weapons in the back of the backpack, which I love. The back of the box description for this movie is, welcome to Camp Rolling Hills. Meet your camp counselor, Angela. She's the kind of counselor who enjoys camp songs, nature walks, board games, and murder. In fact, she does wonders with a chainsaw and a drill press.
Oh, God.
It all started 6 years ago at a nearby camp. Apparently, a shy 14-year-old boy went berserk and committed several grisly murders. Could it be the unhappy camp?
Unhappy campers.
Could it be the unhappy camper has returned as Counselor Angela? The boys and girls at Camp Rolling Hills are about to find out. But as each rowdy camper discovers Angela's secret, they're immediately sent home in a bag until only one camper is left. It's the classic battle between camper and counselor. Sleepaway Camp 2. Sign up and become a dismember.
Oh, God. So I don't think I've ever talked about the back of the box, like, because it is what it is. It's fine. We've all been, well, I can't say we've all. Everybody in our generation has been in a movie store and like desperate to find something, and you read the back of the box. I would say anybody, because now we have the descriptions on Netflix or whatever. Yeah. And sorry, that was freaky. I
can't believe. Okay, I probably shouldn't do that.
That's too much. Too much.
It's too much, man.
It's too much. Like, and I think, like it was early in the movie where it was kind of ruined, quote unquote. Like, oh, this is the killer. And
sure.
And I feel like that's okay when it's like a true slasher and like everybody's scared of that.
Yeah.
But like nobody knew that she was the killer, and we knew who the killer was. It was like, okay.
Yeah, the movie has a bit of a weird vibe in that it's kind of a whodunit for everyone except the audience.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a little different. But I also feel like it's taking that kind of aspect, that role of turning Angela into a slasher villain. Because I also feel like what we get out of this one that changes from the previous movie is that now it's like she's funny, she's interesting, she's delivering all these one-liner jokes. Like, we're cheering for Angela, which like a lot of times, especially in like the later installments of slasher franchises, you don't care about the survivors or the murdered anymore. Like, you care about what crazy kill Jason's gonna do, or what you're cheering for Michael Myers, you're cheering for Freddy, and like we kind of see that turn in this movie. I got more on that, but let me get into just some kind of just very high level highlights of the film. I guess I didn't say I love the cover so much. If I saw this cover, I would rent the movie.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Yep.
Like, it looks like garbage. It's clearly poking fun at or paying homage to the great slasher movies of the time. Like, I'm renting this movie if I saw the cover, for sure.
Yep.
Some highlights that we have, there's an outhouse drowning. There's a Jason homage, a Freddy homage, a Leatherface homage. We get some barbecued sisters. We also get Sean's decapitation, which premieres on TV. There's a lot of interesting socks in the film, and very specific stick attacks.
Yes.
People get beat with sticks a lot. And apparently the rules of sticks are, if you get hit by a stick hard enough,
you're done.
You just die.
Fall down.
If you get hit by a stick not quite as hard, you get knocked out.
Yep.
And you'll get up at an indeterminate time that works best for the plot.
Yep. Have you ever seen Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back?
Yes.
Yoda teaches us that sticks are very important to the art of warfare. And they abide by the rules. It's, hey, I found this dead stick on the ground that would probably snap over my knee, but you know what? I can knock her out with it. Pop, pop, pop. There it is. Boom, she's down.
One day,
who knows how long.
I was walking and I saw this giant log, and I rolled it over, and there was a tiny stick.
Tiny little stick.
And I was like, that log had a child.
Stop it. Yep, pretty much.
My night shift awards. First one goes to Walter Gotell, who plays Uncle John. This is the new camp director. Every Sleepaway Camp movie is at a different camp. We have to have a new camp director. This time, Uncle John, he gets an award because he's probably the best, well, definitely up until now, but I've also seen Sleepaway Camp 3, and I'll say Uncle John is the best actual person at his job who's in this role.
Yeah.
Like, he fires Angela. He realizes something shitty is going on, and he's like,
shady too.
Both. And he's like, nah, bitch, get out of here. Like, like, no, this is bad.
Yep.
I don't like where this is going.
If nothing else, and this really feels like this is his direction, it's bad for business.
Yes.
I'm losing money.
Yes.
He's also dating way less young people.
Also true.
Which is a good thing.
Also true.
Yep.
So, fun fact about Walter Gotell, who plays Uncle John. His most famous role is that he was actually in The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, really?
He's kind of an old Hollywood guy, which is funny because the guy in the first Sleepaway Camp as the director was as well. So just kind of interesting. That's
cool. Yeah.
Next up, we have Renee Estevez as Molly. She gets an award for being our final girl. She also is the sibling of Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen, which is just interesting as fuck. And then finally, obviously, Pamela Springsteen, another famous sibling, as Angela, picking up the role from Felissa Rose. I just feel like she delivers the humor, the one-liners, the movie references. I mean, when she says, get in the toilet, when she says, look who's on TV, like I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
This movie is written by Fritz Gordon, which is a pseudonym for Michael Hitchcock. Michael Hitchcock went on to be a very famous producer. For example, he produced Glee. And a bunch of other TV shows. He also appears in just a ton of TV shit. Like he's in an episode of Law and Order. He's in an episode of just fucking everything. Yeah. It was directed by Michael A. Simpson. And the funny thing is that as far as writing credits and directing credits, this is pretty much it for them.
Okay.
They don't really do anything else except this and Sleepaway Camp 3.
There it is.
They hit perfection and they just had to stop. They said, we've done it. We've achieved peak us.
That's what we're going to do. That's it. It has a budget of $465,000.
Wow, that's still so cheap.
Still so cheap. And this was 88.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, like we talked about this last week, where like if you
especially if you're filming out of season and shit, like
if you shoot quick and you have the run,
shooting was 6 weeks and it was at a YMCA camp.
Yeah. I mean, like, so you're renting I mean, like these companies, like things that people don't think about is like out of season camp, they're making nothing.
Yes.
So like they will take anything and okay, you're going to have, I mean, how many people were even in this movie? Like 50 max? And then you have crew. Sure, I get it. But like, and these are just obscure, fills and stuff. Like, oh, you're going to use a couple of our cabins for 6 weeks max.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's nothing.
That's why the pool was so gross.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
It's also in the YMCA camp that it was at was in Georgia, which is kind of a turn from.
That's why it was so freaking hot.
Yeah.
In the summertime. I'm probably like late summer, like when everything's getting done. But they looked miserable at times.
They do. They look very, very miserable in this movie. It does have a body count of 18 kills. The only questionable one being Molly at the end. We're not 100% sure what happens there. We'll pick up on that with Sleepaway Camp 3.
Oh.
Just because, what happens next.
I haven't seen it.
Yes, you have. I'm pretty sure you were there.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we watched 3.
Okay.
You're good.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. So I saw it.
You saw it.
I'm excited.
Saw it. So a couple just kind of interesting facts here. Felissa Rose was asked to return as Angela Baker. She did a reading. It didn't quite click because all of a sudden this was like a comedic, like one-liner driven thing, which was very different from Angela in the first movie. And it just didn't really work out that great. She also was like getting ready to leave for college. So it was just like, oh yeah, I'll come back and do it. It's like, I got a lot of shit going on. This isn't really the same movie that the last one was. I don't know how much you actually need me for this.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Obviously, we know she comes back to return as Angela and return to Sleepaway Camp, which we will get to eventually. The characters are all named after actors associated with quintessential 1980s films. So we have Molly, who's Molly Ringwald, Sean Penn, Allie Sheedy, TC, who is Tom Cruise, Uncle John is John Hughes, Mare, and why she is Mare and wants to go by Mare is Mare Winningham. Rob is Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Lee Thompson, Brooke Shields, Jodie Foster, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Charlie Sheen, Phoebe Cates, Emilio Estevez, and Diane Lane.
Dang, that's crazy.
It's pretty cool, right?
Also, several links there because I just while we were watching it, I looked up Pam Springsteen and her partner is Sean Penn. Like,
oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I like.
Wait,
there's
wait.
That's what Google said.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Sean Penn ever being with anybody. He seems so angry about everything.
and shockingly kind of sweaty, but
yeah.
But
anyway,
wait, am I Sean Penn? Angry and sweaty
in the summertime?
Is it me?
Yeah, I don't. There's so many different links. Like, hey, what's your brother's name?
Yep,
Emilio. You're Emilio now. What's your brother's name? Bruce. No, that doesn't work.
Bruce Springsteen's the only one who doesn't get a reference. But I guess the funny thing is he's probably the most famous out of all those people.
Right.
But he's not an actor.
Especially now. Like, Sean Penn around this time, what's he shooting? Like Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Right,
like,
yeah.
Like he is growing to that height. Mm-hmm. Like Springsteen's like.
He's already in it.
Like he's
sure.
in it. And like they're like, yeah.
No one calls Sean Penn the boss.
So actually, it's the legend essentially is that no one knew that Pam was Bruce Springsteen's sister, like during filming. They all found out like much later, like, oh shit, like that person we made that movie with was Bruce Springsteen's sister. Like, who knew?
Good for her.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that would be an easy like cash in.
Oh yeah.
Like good for her. She tried it.
She didn't want to ride those coattails.
She got two movies in.
Denim jean
those
tails.
butt cheeks.
Born in the USA. Haunches.
All right.
What is this?
Have you ever seen the album cover?
But I've never done this. Think about it.
His haunches? You've never wanted to do that?
You can't look at that album
Never
cover
wanted to do that? You've never wanted to do that?
That guy must work out.
All right, I got one more fun factoid. The sex scene, the big sex scene between Allie and Rob was actually shot with obviously the actress was the same. We got plenty of full facial shots there, so we knew
those
it
party
was
hats.
her.
You know those.
But Rob, the actor who plays Rob, was a minor during filming.
Oh,
so they had to get an extra to do that scene.
I'd be so mad.
Oh my god, can you imagine? I mean, especially just like culture in the 80s, the way it was at the time, being a young actor, reading a script and being like, oh shit, look what my character gets to film. And then they're like, oh fuck, bro, you ain't 18? We got to get some other random guy to fill in for you.
Yep. Sorry.
No.
We'll shoot your O face, but that's about all we got.
That's pretty much it, man.
Yep.
So what's kind of the thoughts here? We're coming hot off the previous movie.
Yep.
Obviously, Cody, you're new to the franchise. You didn't know really anything about the first one.
Nothing.
So walking into here, like I'm sure you assumed Angela was returning.
Actually, oddly enough, I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought the ending of the first one was kind of that obvious enough to where now we're going to start stringing like stories together.
Sure.
Especially like last week, you were like, oh, Angela returns.
That's true.
In 4. I was like, oh, so she won't be in 2 or 3. Like
right,
I kind of psyched myself up for like, we're going to get similar, but not quite.
Yeah.
I will say, ever since I was pretty young, I don't like knowing the whodunit. I've watched many, and this ages me, I get it, but I've watched many a Diagnosis Murder. I've watched many a CSI. I've watched many 24, and like when you know the person, it's I get the humor, and if we can start tying them together, but when it is overt, it's harder for me. That's where like my scary scale is going to go so far south.
Yes.
Because it's not at that point. Like this is far closer to a but without the gore factor, like the Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, I always flip their names around, but it's just like, but not as endearing because you don't have those characters. Like it's just, It's good. It's entertaining for sure. I love the 80s cliches. I love some of the side characters are so endearing. TC, like you want to hate him early, and then like you are looking forward to the scenes that he's in. Like it's weird, it's strange. But like also I said this last week, like working for a camp.
Yeah.
As soon as one camper goes home or goes missing, like the liability and the margin that every summer camp has worked in for the last 60 years, like that's not just like okay, we're gonna write that off. Like,
right.
No. Like, and so like it's just one of those things. Like, again, it's niche, but like it's hard for me to get around this one. Last week was so much fun for so many different reasons. And this one was just like, I got nitpicky for different reasons. Like there are two completely different movies. And yeah, so I don't want to give away too many hints at ratings.
Yeah, no, you're good. Josh, let's just get your general thoughts before we get into some of our ratings.
Compared to the first one, it's a drastic, just tonal change.
Yes.
It goes from a kind of an unexpected kind of whodunit slasher. I mean, let's just be honest. The ending is pretty classic.
Yeah. Yes.
If you haven't seen it, and in this one, when you start with the knowledge of everything, it becomes more of a just like a horror comedy. And it's I mean it's fun.
Yep.
But it loses a lot of any suspense and allure. You're just like, I'm watching this thing.
Yep. Right.
So I mean I like it, but it's also way different, and I don't want to give too much away either.
Yeah. And I will say, like, in that I found myself, I wouldn't necessarily like rooting for Angela, but anticipating kills.
Yes.
How is this because everybody is going to die. Like this is a movie where like if you expect any character who has a line to live, you are in the wrong. Like and you learn that pretty early on. So it's like, okay, how are they going to die? How they wronged her? How are they going to die now? She's been snarky 10 times, but this last one was over the line. How's that going to phase in judgment? So
gets her tongue cut out.
Yikes.
Yep. I kind of agree. And the thing that I think though is that I think it is kind of one of those perfect sequels with it being the cliche.
Sure.
And so I say that because a lot of times my go-to example of this is Alien to Aliens. Obviously, Alien is a horror movie. Aliens becomes much more of an action movie.
Yep.
And you have that jump of like there being one thing and it being very centralized and localized, and that makes it very threatening. And then it's like, okay, you're not going to be able to do that again. If you are, it's not a sequel, it's just a remake. So what's the point in doing it other than box office dollars? Which obviously they're not making Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 necessarily for box office dollars. I mean, the first one came out really heavy on top, but the sequels, I couldn't even find the money this movie made.
Yeah.
I could only find how much they spent.
Yeah.
So I said this about Stranger Things when the first season of Stranger Things happened, and it ends on that little cliffhanger that it ends on. You know, Will coughs up a little sluggy thing in the sink, and I said, "Oh, they are going to play into the trope and cliche of 80s series." Like, not it got even more meta, and I was like, the next movie will be like Aliens. There'll be way more monsters. There won't just be one Demogorgon. There will be more action. And that's literally exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I don't claim to be able to call those things very often, but I called it with Stranger Things. And I think this movie kind of does that. It says, hey, Sleepaway Camp, which was made by basically a bunch of college students, people really liked it. Let's just like blow the roof off of that and like do the things that were silly because they had no money and no experience in the first one, let's just do those things on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's 100% what the movie is. It is a body count movie. Like you are anticipating the kills, which is that jump from, let's say, Friday the 13th to Friday the 13th part 2, 3, 4, 5. You're waiting for the kills. What creative ways are they going to come up with to kill these teenagers? That's exactly what happens in this film.
I will say it is not as jarring of a difference as like Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 versus Army of Darkness. Like that was just like,
yes.
I was like, wait, I'm not even watching the same movie. I like, yes, this character is the same, but what is happening? It's not like that, which I really appreciated because like they're going obviously for a different direction, but it's not uprooting what you have. So I did really appreciate that.
And so what I kind of where my point is getting around to it is I think it works well as a sequel for that reason. And I think that it works really great. I'm glad that we watched them one week after another. Like, I said this about the first movie. It would be a fun movie to like watch outside and like do like an outdoor screening. It would be fun to do a double feature with the sequel. Like, by that point, a lot of people leave, and like it's more people who are going to be bigger fans of the genre or people that drank too much to be able to leave. And like, yes, like it's a drive-in experience. Watch the first and second Sleepaway Camp at a drive-in. Like that's the drive-in experience. Yeah. The first movie can actually hold its own as a movie, even if it's kind of, you know, B movie and a little crazy sometimes and like drive-in tropes. And then the second movie is just fucking ridiculous. And like, that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
I will say one thing that like fell into the, I don't know, like the, the quintessential 80s kind of genre was the amount of boobs.
Oh yeah.
And like, I feel like it sets it apart from that like Stand By Me, like coming of age thing that I really, really liked about the first. Now, like, don't hear what I'm not saying, but like it changes the movie sequence.
It does.
Like,
it does for sure. And I think that you can see that in the fact that one of the things we talked a lot about in the first movie is, with it being a long time since I've seen it, all the campers were way younger than I remembered.
Way younger.
And then this movie is not that at all.
It has maybe two that play that part.
Yes, for sure.
But they're the young kids with the Polaroid. And like there's literally two in the whole camp.
Like, oh, dude, and we get titties in this movie like
first 10 minutes.
There's one like opening sequence, and then it's like, hey, welcome to camp. Here's some titties. Like, we read them very fast, and they continue throughout pretty much the whole movie. Like very purposefully framed and done, not necessarily in a tasteful way.
It's the airplane right in front.
Oh yeah,
shake them.
100%.
Like what?
100%. 100%. All right, let's go ahead and do scare scale. So scare scale 1 to 5, 5 being the scariest. Where do we land?
I'm gonna go like. Okay, 1 is my wife could watch this. And my wife is she has a low tolerance.
And it's okay if, I would say, I'll just put this out there, if like things like the nudity or whatever would turn off your wife to watching it. Like it's okay if like it's still a 1, but she still wouldn't watch it.
Okay.
That's okay.
1. There's nothing about this movie that is scary. I don't think. Even the kills are obvious, over the top, but still not like graphic.
Well, I was even thinking about the first film had like the bee sequence, like, and you didn't see a lot with that, but like being trapped in this fucking stall with all these bees, like that just felt more intense and scary. Or this movie doesn't do that.
Or like the boil scene where like you kind of see the progress of like blistering and like the stab through the shower curtain, which is an homage,
classic, but still,
and like this one is just like, oh, I have a stick, and maybe on the 4th one you fall down, or I have a chainsaw and I wheel it around, and like even the tongue scene is like, okay, I know what she's doing, but like at the end, it's just like, wait, that blood came
It's not
from
done very well.
what direction? Like, why did it come from this direction? Like,
well, I was watching. I've seen the movie before, and I still when she was cutting off the girl's tongue, I was like, oh shit, she's cutting off her lips. Like that's intense. And then they like move her hand, and her lip's still there. And I was like, oh,
and then someone is over like
she cut out her tongue.
And then she's like,
it.
It's like, does she have a tongue or not? One. You can't go south of 1. It's not scary.
Yep, Josh.
I also say a 1 for the same reasons. The kills aren't scary. They're not really especially gory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just not that scary.
Yep.
Nope.
I agree.
Is there a true jump scare in the movie?
No.
I don't really think so.
I don't think there was.
No.
I don't really think so. At least not with like the traditional like stinger, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like maybe when the boys are like being Freddy and Jason, and then she pops up as Leatherface.
But
that's kind of a jump scare.
It's a slow burn too.
You still see it coming from a mile away.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a 1 for me as well. I am gonna go ahead and give my chicken nuggies.
Okay.
For me, this movie does get a thumbs up, but it gets it for kind of the reasons that I already said, and it's about the sequel being exactly what it was supposed to be at the time. It is ridiculous. It is stupid. It's a stupid movie. This is not a thinking man's horror film by any means. Whereas I guess maybe the first one kind of had more to say in that regard. It was very blunt and awkward and I don't know, bad even for being in the 80s, but at least it gave you something to think about.
Yeah.
This movie gives you nothing to think about.
Yep.
That's for damn sure. But it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I think it works really well as like just that trashy movie that you watch at. It's already midnight before you start it, and like it's going to be garbage, but like it's fun garbage.
Yeah.
My chicken nugget scale for this movie is 100% based on my enjoyment.
Oh God. Sorry. You can't just say 100% and then like expect me to like I freaked out there for a second. Like
it is not 100%.
It is 100%. I was just like, my heart dropped. It was like,
this movie,
I've known you for a long time, and that is not what I expected you to say.
This movie is strictly based upon the percentage is strictly based upon my enjoyment. Let me say it that way.
There you go.
I had a lot of fun watching this movie again. I gave it a 75%.
Try to keep my poker face.
Josh, you want to go next?
I'm gonna give it probably a 45.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the first one.
Yeah.
And I've seen it several times. And the most recent viewing was watching Cody watch it for the first time.
Oh,
yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
Nothing in this movie gives me that same feeling.
Correct.
And then kind of the things we've talked about, there's just it's a fine sequel. I mean, I think it steers into what it knows that it is, but it doesn't do anything especially interesting. If you really like the first one, you're probably like us and you're going to end up watching the rest of the movies anyways.
Right.
Yep.
But if someone, especially if you hadn't seen the first one, don't see this movie.
Right.
Like just flat out. So that's why I would say 45. Oh, thumbs up or thumbs down.
We actually have 3 people on today, so there could be a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Well, there will be a tiebreaker of some sort.
Yeah, I would say thumbs down.
Okay.
Oh, that's not what I expected you to say. I'm going to go. I'm going to hold on to the tiebreaker for now, just to really keep people on edge. I'm going to give it higher than Josh. I'm going to go for that 65%. I think it was fun. If you're the person on, I think it's Thanksgiving where they run the Jason series,
right,
or it's Christmas, one of the two, one of those major holidays where it's like, if you're that person that's watching 1 through a million, like you're going to do this, and it's worth it. Me coming in this week from last week, not knowing a daggone thing about this series other than all of my friends talking about it. I was very excited to watch 2. And so I am in, I will say, where I was very excited to watch 2. I am very worried. I'll say this, not knowing anything about the series, I'm very worried that 3 is going to be 2. I am very worried that it's going to be the same. I know that next week I'm probably going to be saying something completely different and saying like, oh yeah, because I was completely ignorant. I have nothing to show for anything other than like I knew the title. I am going to give this one. I gave it a 65. You should, if you like the first one, you should watch this one. But as a horror movie, as the guy who has gone into Blockbuster desperately begging for a movie to watch, if I would have gotten this one blind, I would have given it a thumbs down. And so that is to say, I think I'm setting up 3 in a very strange place where if it is number 2, I'm going to be mad as hell. But who walks into Blockbuster and just picks up part 3 without seeing 1 and 2? Like you're an idiot if you do that.
Well, and I will say, once we get to the description of 3's box, I think 1 has a cool box as a scary movie.
Yes.
2 has a cool box in the fact of like, oh, this is poking fun at things that I like.
Yeah.
3 doesn't touch on any of those things, just from the box standpoint.
Okay.
Like, at all.
Okay. So I'm going to give it a 65, which seems abnormally high. It's still a fun movie. It's not scary.
Right.
The horror element is people die, but like I've seen scarier things on daggone Diagnosis Murder with Dick Van Dyke. Like it's just, it wasn't a horror movie. And that's
what was everyone's favorite death.
Oh, for sure, old boy getting his head decapitated. Oh, it was such because
what's his name? Sean or Shane?
Sean, yeah. It was Sean.
I think it was Sean.
Yeah.
Because some of the deaths seem so labored. Actually, I do really I'll throw an honorable mention to the girl getting shoved out the window when our last girl kind of was coming into the cabin.
Wait, you mean
but that wasn't the kill though? That was just her being in the window.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean the
whole sequence, right?
The girl who is like another counselor that basically has no character development through the entire movie.
Yep.
And then she just walks on screen.
Yep.
Oh,
okay, so this character,
Yep.
the first time we see her, she just kind of walks out and she tells all the campers what they're doing that day.
Yep.
And then we basically don't see her again. Until
when she came on the screen, I was like, who the
fuck was that? We don't really see her again at all until Angela's murdered everyone in the camp except for her and Molly.
Yep.
And we see like this girl come back to camp and be like, what the fuck? Everybody's dead.
Yep.
And then Angela's like, yep, that's right. You're dead too. Like it just happened so fast. It was so pointless.
Yep. Yep.
Why did she exist at all?
No idea. Loved it.
Her kill wasn't even cool.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
That's
yep.
it.
And then the oh, she's stuck in the window. I'm trying to get her out. And then the one that we really care about is like walking through and she's breaking in the cabin and I've locked it with a little wood piece that flips down. Oh yeah. I enjoyed that just because of the inconvenience of this kill. Like it wasn't anticipated by the killer. It wasn't planned. And she's shoving her through the window, literally her butt sticking through the window. She's pushing it and oh gosh, there's somebody else coming in. Great. Yeah, but otherwise it's old boy who just everything's drawn out. Everything's a thing with Angela.
Right.
Everything's so planned, so meticulous. And old boy just whack, his head's gone.
Yep.
Loved it.
Yep.
And then the presentation of his head
The
afterwards.
presentation.
There's a second part to the kill.
Yes.
Hey, Molly, look who's on TV.
Oh. And you kind of had the feel he was the guy who was going to make the last stand.
Right.
And
he even had ties to Angela as a character.
Yep.
He was the son of a cop.
Yep.
His dad, who was a cop, arrested Angela the first time. And this is our I forget his name, but Corey Feldman in Friday the 13th Part 4.
Yep.
Like, this is that guy. Like, he's gonna come in and save the day. Like, and no.
That's those are the things that got that 65% for me.
Right.
Like, those were fun, those were interesting, and then like, nope, sorry, you lost your head. Probably with my big old stick. No, I think she had a blade, but it was fun. Yeah. It's just not scary.
Yeah, such a good kill. My other one does go to Allie and the drowning in the outhouse. It's gross as fuck, and it's good, but also just the leeches involved. Is really what sets that one off.
The sustained leeches, like she's been dead for a day now, but she still has leeches on her.
Covered. By the end, when she's in the cabin and like she still has they're the fucking biggest leeches I've seen in my life.
They kind of look like turds at that point.
They look like turds. Are those leeches or are those turds? She was drowned in an outhouse. I don't know.
Who knows?
I've gone swimming in a bad creek and gotten leeches before. None of them were that fucking big. Dear God.
No. They've been going for a while.
So it's that one, and then I do like the barbecued sisters. And I don't know. I think there's something poetic about it too, with them being the stoners in the movie. And then very quickly do they get roasted. And toasted.
And I will say a good scene was her waking up into the skeleton. Those are the things that are like closest to a jump scare.
Right, for sure.
But not scary.
No.
I'm with you. Unexpected.
Yeah.
I didn't expect her to sit up. I expected them to die together. And the fact that we don't see that kill to set up the second kill is good.
So it's currently at a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. So Josh was definitely closest. I would, maybe it was our experience. Maybe it was watching the first one and then the second one the next week. I had a lot more fun with it than 45%, but that's just me. You guys got any final thoughts before we call it a night?
This, if you're listening to this standalone, this may not make any sense whatsoever. I am excited for 3. And again, that's where
you know what's really fun in this one are like the music moments. Like whenever it's like the intros, the outros, like those big moments like that are super fun in this film.
And they seem far more intentional than the first one. Where it was just like, like we're all college students. This moment needs to be dramatic. It's like, but you went like, there's drama, and then you can ramp it up times 10, and you went to like times 15. Like, I'm excited for part 3. Like, I'm nervous that it's just wash and repeat for 2. I don't think we're gonna get the magic of 1. Period. Maybe
we'll get that in Return, part 4. I've never seen it, so
probably not.
Who knows what that's gonna be like?
Maybe, probably not though. But maybe it's our telling. But I'm excited for my 65 thumbs down. Number 3, I'm excited.
Cool. All right, well that about does it for us here at the Night Shift. For Night Shift Video, my name is James. This guy is
Josh,
and
I'm Cody.
We're just saying, thanks for stopping in. Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect.